To continue with the 16 attributes, we've been doing the ones on the second truth, true origins, so that craving and karma, which are used as the examples of true origins, they're the cause, so refuting that dukkha is arises causelessly. And then they're the origin, because they repeatedly produce dukkha, and so that eliminates the idea that there's just one cause for dukkha. The third one was that they're strong producers because they act forcefully to produce dukkha, so that eliminates the idea that there's some kind of external creator or something else that causes us harm. And then the fourth one, craving and karma, are conditions for dukkha, because they also act as the cooperative conditions that give rise to suffering. So if we look, if we study the 12 links, in the order of them, craving comes after feeling. The idea being that we contact objects, feeling arises, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And then according to the feeling, a particular kind of craving arises, and, craving for more of the pleasant feelings, craving to be free of the unpleasant ones, and so on. And so through this craving, we then create karma. And then that karma causes dukkha. So that's one way in which craving operates in terms of the creation of karma. It also operates as a condition for the ripening of the karma, because at the time of death, the karma that was the second link, formative action, that propels or projects the next life, that karma is nourished by craving and clinging, nourish it so that karmic seed then becomes what is called renewed existence, where the karmic seed is just about ready to project the next life. So it fully ripens it. So in that case, craving acts as a condition for the ripening of the karma that produces, in this case, a rebirth in samsara. Okay, so you're seeing that craving is both a cause, but in other circumstances it's a condition. And it's equally important as both of them. Because if you don't have craving as the cause, you don't create the formative action that is the seed for the next rebirth. If you don't have craving at the end of this life that gives rise to clinging and renewed existence, then that whatever karmic seed you have on your mind stream that could propel another life does not have the conditions to be able to ripen. And so this is what happens, for example, on the mind stream of arhats. They still may have karma that could produce another lifetime, but it can't ripen because there's no craving and clinging whatsoever. Okay, so knowing this, eliminates the wrong idea that our dukkha is fundamentally permanent, but sometimes impermanent. So we know this one already, because we look that way about ourselves. There's a real me that stays the same, and then something superficial changes. So the same thing about our condition of being in samsara, our condition of samsaric dukkha, is permanent. It doesn't change. There's nothing to do about it. But it does change because we also have varieties of dukkha. And one dukkha one type of misery isn't always there. Yeah, it alternates. Yeah, so if you get more bored with one, another one will come along. So, so this is showing, that we shouldn't think that, that our state of dukkha can't be overcome because it's permanent, even though there's times when it fluctuates and it isn't necessarily the dukkha of pain for this moment, it's the dukkha of change or whatever. Okay? So it helps us to see that dukkha can be eliminated. It's not permanent. Okay? So it's not the default mechanism that's always going to be there. As long as we're ignorant, it's the default mechanism. Okay? Or the default result. But as soon as we are able to, realize emptiness, then it's possible to free ourselves from that. Okay, so that's what this fourth one shows. And so you can see how, in our lives, it's very easy for us to hold any of these wrong ideas. For example, thinking, craving and clinging have nothing to do with my unhappiness. Yeah, it's God's will, it's, somebody else's fault. Or craving and clinging are, craving and karma, that's just what's always going to be there, so there's no use trying to oppose it. Yeah, anyway, it's, inherent in me. Now, this is one of the really bad views. You can see that many people who, are very intelligent in a worldly way, this dukkha is just, it's inherent in being a human being, and science is going to be the miraculous cure for it. Except, how do you stop aging, sickness, and death? Yeah, time goes on, so you can't stop aging. Maybe, sickness, it's, unless they really can, figure things out very well, difficult about sickness. Anyway, even when you're not sick, your body breaks down, doesn't it? Yeah. And it's just the parts gets like an old used car, that has a lot of miles on it. Yeah. And it's just kind of hanging on there, but it's going to, collapse sometime. Yeah. So, people who have that view, then, no wonder there's so much alcoholism and drug abuse. Yeah, because when you think this is just the natural default, and there's nothing you can really do about it. Yeah, as long as we have, our amygdala or whatever it is, then we're doomed. And, what are they going to do? Replace our brain with some computer that is programmed so it doesn't respond like an amygdala? Yeah. Then, otherwise, then they think that there's no possible way to change the situation. And that certainly leads to a lot of depression and feelings of hopelessness. Yeah. Whereas, if we can overcome those wrong kind of ideas, then we see that there's always hope, there's always opportunity, that there's something that can be done, that if you eliminate the causes, the result ceases, and the causes can be eliminated. Yeah. So then the whole way you look at life completely changes. So that's why it's important to look at these 16 aspects and look at the wrong views that they oppose and see if they're kind of lurking somewhere in the back of our mind. Yeah, like the time when you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed and then everybody who smiles at you really is intending to criticize, and so you just get totally discouraged and throw up your hands. It's useless. I can't do this. Yeah, Dharma path just doesn't work. Yeah? And so, when your mind gets into that state, what are you going to do? Yeah? And we better figure out something to do, because if that happens right before we die, then we're really doomed. Yeah? So, very important how to overcome those kind of misconceptions in us. When we were going through in Precious Garland the Bodhisattva grounds, then one person said to me, I just can't relate to that. They just seem so, out of the ordinary, so like a fantasy. I can't relate. And I thought, wow, because if you can't relate to that, then you don't have a vision of what you can become. Yeah? And having a vision of what we can become is so important in our lives. Not only as spiritual practitioners, but one of the problems in poor neighborhoods or minority neighborhoods, that are often oppressed, is that the kids don't have a vision of what they can become. Yeah, and without a vision of what we can become, then you don't do anything. Yeah. And so having that vision is very important. So I said to this person, okay, so maybe you can't relate to, emanating 100,000 bodies and visiting 100,000 pure lands and so on. Maybe you can't relate to that. But, yeah, there's certain of those qualities that you can see that right now you have this much of. Yeah, like maybe we have this much compassion that reaches out to sentient beings. So, we don't have the ability to create all these emanations that go out, but we do have some intention, even though it's this big, to do that. So if you take that small intention that you have right now and you nourish it and you feed it, it will grow until eventually you accumulate all the other causes and conditions necessary, and then you can send out all these emanations. Yeah? But if you just go from looking and thinking, my poor quality view, I'm nothing, to these, look at the qualities of the 10th ground bodhisattvas, then you think, well, it's hopeless. There's nothing that they and I have in common. As if those 10th grounders were born that way and they never had to start out like us. Yeah. So we're full of this kind of wrong idea, and you can see how it plays a role, how it comes up in your practice sometimes when you just, say to yourself, I'm not making any progress. Do you ever say that to yourself? Yeah. I'm not making any progress. It's just, same distraction every meditation session. So we have to oppose these wrong ideas. Otherwise, they sneak up and they really wreak havoc. Okay.